All right, some international issues now. We'll go to the US. My panel to discuss it all, Sky News contributor Kosha Garda and the past chair of the Parliament's Foreign Affairs and Defence Committee, the wonderful Labor man, good man, old Labor, Michael Danby. Well, 2 weeks to go until the US election. Polls are tight, but Donald Trump continues to gain ground. It's clear, as I said earlier, momentum is with him. In a recent Fox News poll of likely voters, he's drawn ahead of Kamala Harris. Trump's viral appearance at that Pennsylvania McDonald's has drawn a lot of attention to the battle to win over the working class voters, and he's got the campaign focus that every candidate wants in the last dying days of the race. It's all about Donald Trump. The polling guru, Nate Silver, has said the fact that Trump has taken the lead in a number of high-quality national polls, he says, is not good news for Harris. Kosha, they're both focusing pretty tightly on those 7 battleground states. Can you explain the framing of them as Rust Belt seats or states and Sun Belt states?
Yeah, so this election is going to come down to these 7 battleground states that we talk about. At 3 of them, Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania are the Rust Belt states that earned that moniker because they basically were the bastions of manufacturing, like the biggest manufacturing base in the Western Hemisphere. And over the last 40 years have been hollowed out. There's lots of older white working class voters there that remember those times or are angry with the different economic leadership and decisions that have been made over the years. They typically have always voted Democrat, except for twice. Ronald Reagan won them over. They were called Reagan Democrats, and then Trump did in 2016. So that's sort of one block, and they're going to be moved by some of those issues that are important to the working class. And then the Sun Belt states are North Carolina, Arizona, Georgia, and Nevada, which are in play for this as battleground states. That name is more just because of the weather. They're actually all quite different, but what they share in common is a lot of them are border states, 3 of them, and so the immigration issue is really hitting close to home for them and has been for some time. And they've also undergone a big demographic shift in the last 40 years with lots of Hispanics that have come in and the issues that pertain to them. So all of the issues that resonate with those 2 things are what you're going to see the campaigns really focus in on and hone in on in these last 2 weeks to go.
Michael, I mentioned there that you're the old Labor man, and I mean that not disparagingly, because old Labor used to be the party of the working class that understood the battle, that could read the electorate. Not so the Keir Starmer party in the UK, not so the Democrats anymore, and I have to say not so the Albanese party in Canberra. So who do you think is winning the fight for the working class?
Well, after the 2022 congressional results, Peter and Kosha, we have to be very cautious in our estimates. Interestingly, at the Steelers game in Pittsburgh, there's 2 narratives. Trump was either booed or the crowd chanted USA, USA. I suppose you'd have had to be there to judge. But I think the working class segments of the Hispanic and Black communities, particularly younger males, may be the decision maker in this election. 81% of young Black men supported Obama, but only 41% support Kamala. And 50% of younger Hispanic men seem to be supporting Trump. So we can't tell because the results were and the polling was different national and statewide. But if the 100,000 pro-Gaza Arab vote in Michigan stays away from the polls, that unintentionally, again, may help Trump.
All right, let's move now to the UK. The Prime Minister there, Keir Starmer, he's ruled out reparation payments for colonialism following Lydia Thorpe's outburst in front of the King in Canberra yesterday. The British people have been shocked by her protest. It's made front pages in the UK. Now, I think that's embarrassing. Well, it's embarrassing for her, of course it is, but I think it's embarrassing for us as well. I hope the rest of the world, Kosha, understands that we think she's as much a shrew as they do.
I think the rest of the world recognizes that she and her antics on the floor there are not representative of Australians overall, and to the extent that the rest of the world was following the Voice referendum, that is proof positive of where the country stands on the particular issue that she was shouting about. Unfortunately, I also think the rest of the world probably recognizes something familiar here, that there is this sort of internal battle going on in Australia, much as it is in other liberal democracies, US, UK, where there is this faction of people that are just guided by by racial and ethnic-based groupings and preferential treatment and affirmative action, versions thereof, rather than nationalism and unity at the nation level and the democratic ideals that these countries were faced with. I think it's a familiar showing, and unfortunately this brought it, I think, on the international stage.
Yeah, it's a shame. Let's go to Victoria, Michael, because Victorian steel fabricators are feeling betrayed after learning that 11,000 tonne of steel has been sourced from China. This is for the $26 billion North East Link road project. It's one of many, but I tell you what, the government claimed initially that bridge girders were being sourced from overseas because local suppliers couldn't supply the available materials. However, the CEO of Weld Australia, he slammed that as an excuse. He says that cost cutting, because they've blown out the budget, is the real reason that it's being built with imported Chinese steel. Now, we know Daniel Andrews has set himself up a company. He's out there making money from his Chinese connections. It's a Chinese-linked company. I don't know, but I smell a rat. Maybe this Belt and Road that we were told was gone is actually happening by stealth anyway.
Where is the leadership of the metal workers and Australian Workers Union in this? This is a disgrace to them. This is an abrogation of their members' working ability. This is sourced. We had train carriages sourced in Beijing rather than Bendigo. This is the socialist left, Peter and Kosher. They don't care that we have these windmills being built by Chinese slave labour, by Uyghurs, etc. You have to care about these kind of things, because otherwise you'll have China undercut us in all of these products. There's an already broke Victorian government to the lowest common denominator. My brother-in-law tells me that the last screw manufacturer, very famous company, is going out of business by the end of the year in Victoria, and all screws in Australia are going to be supplied from China. It's insane. I mean, we won't be able to provide screws. I mean, didn't we learn from the pharmaceutical issues during the COVID crisis?
You're not wrong. I'll have to leave it there. Coach, just before we go, what are you watching for in the next last 2 weeks in the US election?
I just think you're going to see more retail politics by the candidates, and it's going to be close, but the momentum is certainly in Trump's favor.
All right, we'll watch it closely. Thank you both for your time. See you next week.